On August 15th, 1977, Jerry R. Emmon discovers the WOW signal at Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope, then used to search for extraterrestrial intelligence. The WOW signal was a narrow-band radio signal that lasted for 10 seconds with such intensity it was suggested not to be of natural origin. On July 1st, 2025, a comet previously named C/2025N1 was discovered by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, also known as ATLAS, and speculated to be of interstellar origins based off its trajectory and speed. On July 15th of 2025, it was confirmed to be of interstellar origin and was now officially designated 3I Atlas, named for being the third interstellar object ever discovered and being discovered by the Atlas telescope. August 22nd, 2025, it was confirmed that the comet came within 5 degrees of the ecliptic plane. The ecliptic plane is the imaginary plane that the Earth's orbit sits on while orbiting around the Sun. Most bodies in the solar system either sit on or near this plane as well. On October 3rd, 2025, 3I Atlas flew so close to Mars that NASA's Mars Express and ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter were able to take close-up photos of the comet. As of right now, these photos have not been released to the public due to the United States government shutdown. On October 13th of 2025, 3I Atlas started emitting pulses of light in the order of the Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence is a series of numbers where each number is the sum of the two preceding ones, usually starting with 0 and 1. This can then be grafted into a spiral pattern that is often found in nature. For the first time in history, on October 23rd, 2025, NASA has activated its planetary defense protocols in response to 3I Atlas. Also on this day, Harvard professor Avi Loeb reveals that 3I Atlas's trajectory nearly identically matches where the WOW signal originates. So what the hell is 3I Atlas?
Space rock the size of Manhattan. Changes from blue to green. It's got water in it, nickel and carbon and all these other minerals. I mean, it sounds like a get-rich-quick scheme to me.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the nickel in it. Whenever you see nickel in nature, it's always paired with iron. And the interesting thing about this comet is, as far as we are aware, there is no iron bonded with the nickel. We have only seen that when nickel has been industrialized and has been purposely separated from iron. So is it aliens?
I think aliens is relative. And here's what I mean. First, let's break down the words, right? Aliens just means foreign or unfamiliar, right? When you look at the explanation of language, a word that I'm going to throw in here too, and I'm going to make a point to all this, I promise, called extraterrestrial. So alien, typically we think of like little green guys coming from outer space, da-da-da. But when we think of extraterrestrial, most people would think of the same thing. The word extraterrestrial literally means more land. Extra, more, terrestrial, land. So when we look at through our atlas and the possibility of aliens, I am one of those kind of people that say we don't know what's already on our own planet. We don't know. I mean, we don't know a lot. And I'm not going to go too deep into the rabbit hole, but we have the mystery of Antarctica. We have what lies beyond those ice walls. We have the potential of more Earth under Earth if you do a little bit of research, just a little bit. You don't have to do a whole lot. And don't take my word for it. Do some research, right? So we have the potential for things that could be alien in nature already here, but not alien at all. It's just been here the whole time and it's just unseen. Through Atlas being from outer space, not necessarily moving in normal trajectories or patterns, behaving differently, looking differently, and all these other things. It could be something, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's anything that hasn't already been disclosed in some way, shape, form, or fashion. We know fallen angels have been on the planet before, and that's according to the Bible. They were cast down from heaven and sent to earth. They made a pretty large mess of things while they were here. I imagine things that they would have created when they mated with animals and humans in their day probably would be seen as alien or extraterrestrial if we just put eyes on it today. Saying all that to say this, I think the term alien doesn't necessarily mean alien. And if something comes, quote unquote, to our planet, personal opinion, it is either not real or it's something that's already here, just kept hidden.
Ultimately, we know to a certain degree that NASA is, they're definitely withholding information, and to a certain degree, you could even say they're lying about some stuff. How do we know this? Well, they took pictures of 3i Atlas from one of their Mars orbiting satellites on, what was it, October 3rd, I believe. And now they're saying, well, we can't release these photos because the government shut down. No, no one's working. Oh, well, we'll release them later. Alright, cool. Then, a week or two ago, they activated their planetary defense system for the first time ever. This is the first time they've ever done this. It's just been on, the system has been on standby for the last 50 some odd years. And they're just now activating it because 3i Atlas is acting strange. No, they have those photos, and supposedly they're pretty detailed. So why are they activating planetary defense? It's very, very strange.
Saw something they weren't meant to see.
Potentially, yeah.
Maybe we were meant to see it. You know?
Like you like the Nephilim involved are like, we want you to know that that we're here.
Potentially.
Yeah.
You know? And beyond that, right? Like, if it shows something that has been theorized more than a few times, the proof of it would call into question of a lot of things that are concrete and that are in place today. I think it would shatter a lot of the information and facts that we have, or facts that we've been led to believe are facts.
Well, and then there's also, I think we'd be doing this video unjustly if we didn't talk about the idea that maybe, potentially, these aliens are, in fact, benevolent. Which sounds weird to say, given that we are a Christian channel, but there's one piece of evidence I want to present that may adds a little bit of concreteness to this theory. Have you ever heard of Rafael Pacheco?
I have not.
He was a pilot. Back in the 80s, he was doing his training to be a pilot. And essentially, at this point in his training, he had done his tandem flights, and this was the first flight that he's going out on his own. Effectively, he's going to take off, do
I
some
just heard
circles.
about this guy, actually.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Keep going, though.
Yeah, so he takes off, does a few circles, lands, passes the test. He has his pilot's license. Dope. Except during the flight, at some point, he passes out, flies for about an hour, wakes up, and he's over the ocean way further out than he should be, way farther out than his fuel allows him to be. Now he's talking to ATC, the air traffic controller, and the air traffic controller is asking him, like, what's going on, what happened, yada yada yada, and this Raphael tells him that he passed out. He doesn't know what happened. He's just thanking God that he didn't crash. Right, passing out in an airplane while flying by yourself is a surefire way to eliminate yourself from this plane of existence. We'll put it. Well, he gets down, he lands. The ATC directs him to the nearest airport and immediately goes in for psychiatric evaluation. He does this for, I think, is it an entire day, a couple of days? I can't remember. But afterwards, they finally tell him what happened, right? Psychiatrist comes back and they say, well, he's not mentally ill, he's not mentally insane, he's shooken up, but that's par for the course when this kind of thing happens. So they tell him what happens, and they provide him the recording of the air traffic control in which he was talking, and maybe I will post it. I have it up right now. I believe it's all in Spanish, though, as it does take place in Mexico. But effectively, what happened was Raphael was taken over by an alien, and this alien continues to state that he is using Raphael as a radio of some sorts, and they're trying to tell humans that we are on a precipice of potentially destroying ourselves, as at this point we were using or had used and were continuing to test nuclear weapons, and the aliens said that if we don't stop and we don't calm down a little bit, that some sort of other force will come down and will force us to stop so that we don't destroy each other. Doesn't sound like necessarily an evil force, right? It sounds like a benevolent force that wants us to live on throughout the universe, and they're just watching us and kind of waiting for us to advance to a point in which they find it worthy that we get brought into the fold in their galactic, intergalactic society, whatever you want to call it. That's kind of what is being implied in the story.
It's interesting, to say the least. I'll just say the truth is stranger than fiction. That's what I'll say. I'll add, I don't think it's untrue. I think the Bible gives us a great deal already, as is, without you going down conspiracy talk or without you looking at other sources or whatever it is. The Bible tells you that there are other entities and things at play that are not human. It says that. And the Bible also says there are other fallen angels who came down to earth. They were doing things that were not in line with God's will, and that's what caused the flood. Maybe the flood did not completely eradicate things to the degree that we've been taught. Maybe there's more to the story. Maybe these things found a way to leave via ways that we just haven't comprehended yet. And there could be a whole lot of other things too that could go into play with this as well. There are other theories that suggest that 3AI Atlas is going to activate some kind of frequency shift on Earth that are going to allow people to be in a different space mentally. I don't know if there's any validity to that.
I think that was already supposed to happen.
Interesting.
Because I know what you're talking about. I believe It was supposed to happen at the perihelion of 3i Atlas, and then on top of that, we were at solar maximum on the same day. So the sun was at its highest activity that it's been in I think 20 years. I think that was when the frequency shift was supposed to happen.
You feel any different?
I don't feel any different. You feel any different?
Animals are acting different. I don't know if they feel something, but they've been on one the last week.
What are they doing?
They're just being goofy, man. Extra weird. Super affectionate, a lot more energized and rambunctious. I don't know. They got food and water, so they're not craving attention or anything like that, but they're good. But
In any case, without going too far down the conspiratard rabbit hole, it is important to note that given the story presented, maybe these extraterrestrial beings are benevolent. However, here on this channel, we believe that they are not. As to the exact nature of what they are, it's really hard to say, right? You can say it's fallen angels that escaped the flood, you could say it's Nephilim that escaped the flood. I tend to think that all the Nephilim were destroyed and now they roam the earth in more of a spirit form and influence people and events on the spiritual level. I think a piece of evidence that we also need to look at to try to determine whether or not these things are benevolent, malevolent, spiritual in nature, whatever you want to call it, is the fact that there's quite a bit of accounts. Last I checked, a little over 400 that the claim that's being made is that these people were in the middle of an alien encounter or abduction, and then they rebuked these aliens in the name of Jesus Christ. On one hand, I think to steelman the opposing argument, you startled them, or maybe not startled, but I think you can make the argument that states, these aliens thought that they were hidden. It was discovered that they weren't, so they left. Right? I think that's the steelman of it's just a weird encounter. There's also the idea that it was just in these people's heads. Maybe they were hallucinating. Maybe there's some kind of mental illness involved. Because, let's be honest, although 400 counts is a lot, in the grand scheme of things, and in the grand scheme of even all of the alien encounter stories that we do have, it's really a very small percentage.
unlikely, but not impossible.
Yeah, it's not impossible. When we're looking at these conspiracies, I think a good rule of thumb is to look at the coincidences and look at the probability of it all. What's the probability that NASA would lie to us about this thing? I think extremely high, right? Because even if it is aliens and they told everyone it was aliens, that would send everybody into a panic, and you don't necessarily want to do that. So there is a very good reason to lie about this thing.
And even if it is not aliens or intelligent life or anything like that, further goes into, okay, well, what would you have to hide if it isn't? You know?
Yeah. Oh, and there's governmental plays every single day that don't get talked about because the entire populace is distracted with this kind of thing. Take a certain someone's files, for example.
Yeah.
There's he's got FBI files on him that a lot of people are wanting released, but hasn't been done yet.
A lot of people don't want them released.
Yeah, a lot more powerful people don't want them released.
At any rate, there are, I don't know, man. I look at it like this. If a rock the size of Manhattan is flying through the solar system, and we already go out there a lot anyways, allegedly, for funsies, and the second something cool comes in, I would probably want to check it out and see what's up with it.
Yeah, and I mean that's the weird part too, is like we have all these satellites out there, and I understand they're not all for taking images, right? But we had this thing fly right by Mars, and allegedly, we got some pretty good pictures of this thing, and NASA's just saying, nope, sorry, we want to release them, we promise, we want to release them, but the government shutdown, can't do it. And then, like a week
Well,
later, they activate their planetary defense system just in case. Just in case.
well, we allegedly have stuff on Mars, like all these rovers and everything, who take pictures of Mars all the time.
Well, I don't.
So,
I don't think those are capable of even looking outside the atmosphere of Mars.
well,
There's just a lot of oddities around this thing, and I don't know where to even stand on it because as much oddities as there are, there's also a lot of misinformation. If you're watching this, you may have
a
seen
ton.
yeah, you may have seen the picture that supposedly the Japanese released. Like, it's super detailed and it has all the lights on it. I don't believe that that's a real picture. That's just me.
Yeah, I'm
It
gonna have to agree.
Yeah, and so we have all this misinformation. We have all this, but there's an entire haystack of information, and everyone's trying to sift through it and figure out which piece is real, and it's extremely difficult. So I don't know where to sit on it. We will know more come in December. As of right now, it's sitting behind the sun relative to us, so we can't really get a good image of it. Come December, we'll be able to see it again, and we'll be able to know if it changed trajectory. Because if it did that, that's pretty clear evidence that there's something purposeful behind it going on. Our main goal with this is to, one, talk about something that we find interesting, and two, bring to light more theology, more Christian theology to y'all, and give you some resources to look at. Which, speaking of, do you got any sources, apocryphas, that you want to point people to?
It's the Book of Revelation briefly mentions it. It insinuates or alludes to, I'll say, the fallen angels. Revelations chapter 12, verses 3 and 4. 2 Peter, Book of Jude, talks about angels who did not stay within their position of authority and were permanently enchained in darkness. And then Genesis, actually, chapter 6, they talk about the sons of God taking human wives.
Yeah, you also got books in the Apocrypha, like the Book of Enoch and the Book of Giants. And although they aren't biblical canon in, I don't think, any Western civilization churches, I believe the only church that considers the Book of Enoch and the Book of Giants as Christian canon is the Ethiopian church. I still think that it is a good source to look at, even if you don't believe it 100% or you don't believe it's the word of God. I think it's still important to read and important to look at. Got any final points for us?
I do not.
All right, we'll leave it there. This is the first episode of what will hopefully become a very long and very big series on different conspiracies and how they relate to the Bible. We'll be talking just about everything that we can talk about, whether it's Three Eye Atlas, whether it's CERN, Antarctica, the pyramids. We're going to try to get all of it as much as we can. In any case, this is Be Gentle, Be Ruthless. Y'all have a good day. We'll see you on Friday for another prepping episode, and then we'll have another Sunday discussion for y'all on Sunday. So, y'all have a good week.